Welcome to another video, everyone. Glad to have you. And I hope you're ready for another React video. Today's video is going to be reacting to VaatiVidya's lore explained for Dark Souls 2. Let's get into it.
This video will make more sense if you've watched part 1 of this series.
Oh no. What is part 1?
When you finish the game, you have a lot of questions. Who are the giants? What did King Vendrick steal from them? Why does Nishandra need you to open the door to the throne? Why does the Emerald Herald want you to ascend the Throne of Want? Why doesn't Vendrick sit upon the Throne of Want? What is the Throne of Want? Now, all of this is really overwhelming, I know, but by the end of this video, you should at least understand my interpretation of events, and this can serve as a really good framework to build your own theories from. So, I'm going to start at the end and work my way backwards. Now, this might sound strange, but there is a reason for it, because most characters in Dark Souls 2 are driven by a desire, a want. For example, to understand Vendrick's hollowed state and location, you have to understand what he desired above all else, and how it led him there. To understand Nishandra's desire for the throne, we have to understand why it was so important to her, and to understand why the Emerald Herald drives you to become king, we need to know why she needs a new monarch. Do you understand? The reason we have these questions is because these character wants are hidden from us until the very end. That's why you got to the end of the game and you still had questions. Even the cursed undead you play as in-game is told that they will do these things without really knowing why. And you as a player are no different. The Firekeeper says it.
But one day, you will stand before its decrepit gate without really knowing why.
The Maiden says it.
If you are to be the next monarch, then one day you will walk those grounds without really knowing why.
Grave Warden Agdane says it.
How queer you humans. How you go on, never separating truth from fiction.
Do you see? As the ancient dragon says, the curse of life is the curse of want, and you peer into the fog in hope of answers. This game, more than any other Souls game, is about a search for answers. So this is great for channels like mine that interpret the lore, but it's likely really bad for the average player who has no idea what's going on. And I'd assume this focus on answers is why so many item descriptions have questions within them, because they want to make you question the world you find yourself in. And so we start with the Throne of Want. What is it? Well, first off, the throne room itself is a kiln. And to understand why it being a kiln is significant, you have to understand the principles of this world, and it just so happens that they're the same principles we found in Lordran in Dark Souls 1.
Just want to say, I didn't actually do the other ending, so this is all new to me right now. The giants coming together. I was like, whoa!
In the Dark Souls 1 opening cinematic, we see the shambling forms of hollows. They're called that, presumably because they're empty vessels, hollow. Then the first flame appeared, containing powerful souls. One hollow found the Dark Soul and used it to give birth to humanity. Another 3 found their powerful souls within the first flame, and one of these lords became Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight. His soul was power, and he ushered in an age of light and fire. In time, though, this age began to dwindle. The brighter the flame, the shorter its life, and so the world began to darken. Everything fell apart around Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight. His city became abandoned, his trusted friends betrayed him. Demons were spawned when one of his fellow lords tried to relight the first flame, and humanity began to be afflicted by the curse of the undead. Undead are kept sane through their strength of purpose, and one undead took on an impossible purpose. He journeyed through the crumbling world and consumed thousands of powerful souls in the process, eventually gathering the strength to overthrow the fading Lord Gwyn. In the kiln of the first flame, where Lord Gwyn once linked the flame to his own soul, an undead with a powerful soul did the same. He links the flame to his soul like Gwyn did, and the flame consumes him, starting a new age of fire. Before Dark Souls 2, we didn't know what effect this would have. We assumed linking the fire would bring light back to the world, and we were right. We also knew that linking the fire is a temporary solution, as everything fades in time. But what we didn't know is that this process is destined to play out over and over again. It's a cycle. The dull ember, an item we come across in our journey, gives us a clue about the cycle of light and dark. An ember radiating a dull light. This flame seems nearly exhausted, but it exhibits an eerie resilience. Perhaps this is its ordinary state. I think this quote reflects the concept of light and dark in the game. I think it means that the center point of light and dark is around a struggling, spluttering flame. Gwyn linked the fire with his soul. This prolonged his age of light. Eventually it faded to its natural state, where there were only cinders. At this point, an undead comes along with another immense soul. He can either choose to link the flame and bolster the age of fire, or let it splutter and die and lead an age of dark. In Dark Souls 1, this is your choice. Whether you choose light or dark, it's possible that it doesn't even matter, because if you choose light, your age of light will eventually fade to cinders, and if you choose dark, you might smother the flame, but an ember will always remain in the ashes, waiting to be blown back into life.
So, literally, the game is pointless. No matter what we do, it's the same. It is destined to continue forever, which is interesting because when he did make the first fire, it's what started it all, and he just made it an endless loop. So when I left in Dark Souls 2, it was just dark for a while, but the ember remained, and someone will come along and link it anyway, which I'm guessing is what Dark Souls 3 is.
Dark Souls 2, there's an item called Sublime Bone Dust. Its description says that it is the remains of a saint who cast himself into the bonfire. But we will never know for sure, for soot and ashes tell no story. This isn't just any old dust, it allows you to bolster the power of your Estus Flask, which heals the undead. It's also found numerous times throughout the game, in numerous locations, so it's implied that these are the remains of the chosen undead before you, the chosen undead who linked the fire before burning to dust themselves.
Many kingdoms rose and fell on this tract of earth. Mine was by no means the first. Anything that has a beginning also has an end. No flame, however brilliant, does not one day splutter and fade. But then, from the ashes, the flame reignites, and a new kingdom is born, sporting a new face.
This tells us that the cycle has repeated itself numerous times. Many have sacrificed themselves to renew the cycle of light, and their ashes are found throughout the land. One after the other, without fail, a chosen undead resigns himself to the kiln to link his soul with the first flame. So it's my theory that the undead curse crops up once the flame begins to fade, so that eventually a fated undead will appear with the willpower to gather souls and link the flame once again. When you link the fire, you're also removing the undead curse from the world for a short time.
Yeah,
but only for a short time, for when the world darkens, the curse appears again.
The curse is a part of life itself. No one will ever be rid of it. And so there is only one choice. To await a worthy monarch. A monarch who can shoulder your burden. Lest this land swallow you whole. As it has so many others.
You are the bearer of the curse, but this means more than you'd think. You don't just bear the curse of the undead where you die over and over, but by linking the fire, you also bear the burden of this cursed world. You are the worthy monarch, who sacrifices himself so that humans can die instead of going hollow. Why do humans go hollow? Well, do you remember the hollows from the Dark Souls 1 opening cinematic? That seems to be their natural state. Some of these hollows found humanity in the first flame and became human. Reverting to your hollow state doesn't seem that unnatural when you consider that, does it? So as I said earlier, remember the throne room you enter at the end of the game? Look at the design, it's a kiln. Just like the kiln in the first game, it exists to house the first flame. A kiln used to change the form of something with heat. The throne and the room itself is covered in ash, and as you enter, the Emerald Herald tells you that you can link the fire, should you choose to do so. The giant's kinship reads, "Each king has his rightful throne, and when he sits upon it, he sees what he chooses to see. Or perhaps it is the throne which shows the king only what he wants." So this is the effects of the ending. For now, simply know that it represents another cycle taking place. You are sitting upon a throne, and the throne is but a symbol of power and choice. The power and choice that lighting the first flame gives to you, as you can decide how to reshape your world. The Emerald Herald says that once the fire is linked, the souls you've inherited will flourish anew. and inherit new bodies, and all of the events that just occurred will play out again. The Age of Fire will be bolstered, and the undead curse may disappear, but in time the fire will fade, and eventually a new undead will come along, bound by fate. She then says it's your choice to embrace or renounce this. And like in Dark Souls 1, you have that choice to embrace light, or to reject it and let darkness come. The only difference between Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1 that I can see is that in Dark Souls 2, we aren't able to make the in-game choice of linking the flame or walking away from it. And when you think about it, why would we need to make that choice in-game? Because now we know, regardless of what we choose, you, as a player, know the cycle will start over again.
Great Sovereign, take your throne.
So in the original,
What lies ahead, only you can see.
in the original, before the DLC, you had to link the fire. He does have a first sin video too.
This video will make more sense if you've watched part 1 of this series,
So
where
let's
I
go back
explain
and
the ending.
watch the original
Because
one.
now that we know what it means to sit upon the throne, we can explore the stories of those who would sit upon it. And it turns out, the original king of Drangleic, Vendrick, was supposed to link the flame and sit the throne, but he never did. And when you acquire his soul, it is a soul of he who would link the flame. Queen Nashandra also makes reference to this when you visit her in the throne room.
The last king of this land, King Vendrick, as he was called. He was less of a king than you might imagine. He found the strength to rule his people, and when the undead were born, cursed, he found more strength to face them. But in the end, he never took the true throne. A true monarch is much more than a ruler of men. A true monarch carries the weight of their souls.
If a true monarch must carry a huge weight of souls and incinerate himself in the kiln to link the fire, then perhaps Vendrick wanted none of it. So now we go back before there was a king, a queen, and back before Vendrick's kingdom of Drangleic was even founded. Many kingdoms have risen and fallen on the spot that is now called Drangleic. The kingdoms take different shapes, but the framework is always the same. There's always a king, there is always the undead curse, and there are always 4 powerful souls. Back in Dark Souls 1, there were 4 Great Ones. It's likely these were the first 4 Great Ones, as they found their souls within the first flame.
Many kingdoms have risen and fallen on this very spot, each like a great flame that turns to soot.
King Vendrick founded Drangleic.
He vanquished the 4 Great Ones and built this kingdom upon their souls.
Vendrick crushed the kingdom and the 4 Great Ones who existed before him. He then instigated a powerful kingdom named Drangleic, which came about due to those who fought for him. The ring bearing the soldier's seal was granted to warriors who distinguished themselves in the service of King Vendrick. He also commanded the Dragon Riders, elite knights straddling dragons, who helped him crush the kingdom's former inhabitants. Drangleic was built upon the graves of those they defeated, and his kingdom prospered. But Vendrick wasn't just interested in gaining the throne, he also sought to maintain it. And then there was a queen.
The king had a dear
So, like, all of the fractured souls from Manus were trying to do the same thing. Now, it's coming together for me now, like the Ivory King, the Iron King, and the one that died in the Sunken Kingdom from poison or whatever. All 3 of them had one of the separated souls from Manus try to manipulate them, right? And they all weren't worthy, I think. So she was doing the same thing with Vendrick, and she got so close, but just didn't make it. And I think that's why he locked himself away. I'm sure he'll touch on it in a sec here.
Nashandra is characterized by her lust for power. Every fragment of her being is bent towards this end. Her origins are shrouded in mystery to the main characters of Drangleic, but we learn of her origins once we obtain her soul. I don't know if you've read it, but her soul states, Nashandra was born of the dark with an insatiable lust for strength. The Bow of Want, formed from her soul, tells us that when the Old One of the Abyss was destroyed, his soul split into minuscule fragments, and these were spread across the land. The Old One is Manus from Dark Souls 1. This is confirmed by the official guide. Manus was responsible for the spread of the Abyss in Dark Souls 1, an ancient being characterized by his lust for his lost pendant. So similarly, Nashandra is driven by her lust for power. The Bow of Want description tells us of how the smallest of these pieces of Manus, sensing its own fragility, yearned for what it lacked. Precisely due to its size, the smallest piece of Manus was the first to restore its form. A form that looks remarkably like Princess Dusk, who Manus stole from Ulasil, but that's a topic for another day. We can't be sure how Vendrick realizes this, but when he recognizes Nashandra's true nature, he must give up on cheating fate. He accepts that the curse will take over his flesh and his mind, but his final act is to deny his queen. King Vendrick prepares all the pieces of the puzzle and makes his move. Whatever the cost to him, his queen will not ascend the throne. And so, let's work backwards from the throne, and let's finally see how Vendrick set up the barriers to Nashandra's rule. The giant's kinship grants access to the throne beneath the castle. Why we need to be of giant blood to ascend the throne is a topic we'll hopefully understand soon, but note that the throne has a human-sized seat carved into a much larger throne. We find the giant's kinship within the memory of Jay, a giant who fell in the final battle with Drangleic, where the Giant Lord was present. The Giant Lord was eventually defeated by an unnamed hero, and we take their place inside the memory in order to obtain the giant's kinship. The memories of the giants can only be accessed once you have obtained the Ashen Mist Heart, which requires the blessing of the ancient dragon hidden deep within the dragon shrine. Such a thing cannot be taken by force. Mist is associated with time travel and space, and it's also associated with the ancient dragons. So it makes a degree of sense then that the false ancient dragon should have the ability to give you something like this. Something to access the memory of giants, something to get the giant's kinship, and something to let you access the throne. The doors to all of these things only open when one wears the king's ring. The king resided in Drangleic Castle with his queen, but eventually retreated deeper within it with his ring. I imagine Vendrick traveling with his trusted protector Velstart deeper into Drangleic Castle. He assigns the Looking Glass Knight to overlook the entrance to Armana. Fearing something wicked, the king fled the castle and never returned, but his warrior, forever true to his command, stands ready to expunge those who would challenge him. So the king traveled to his Shrine of Amana, which exists below Drangleic Castle. Its purpose, I believe, is to repel Nashandra. Within it are the Milfinito, who sing to bring comfort to those bound by death and dark.
When we sing, the little ones dance. The little ones grant comfort to those who bear death and dark.
The little ones are the fireflies. While the Milfinitos sing, the fireflies gather around those bound by death and dark, rendering them passive, docile, and inert. If we stop them singing, then the creatures of death and dark become aggressive and revert to their natural selves. Nashandra's very being is death and dark, and she would be bound by this calming force if she attempted to travel through here. Within Drangleic Castle, we also see a captured Milfinito, which presumably was taken by the queen as she attempted to penetrate the shrine after
All
Vendrick
the pieces
went
are
through.
coming together.
So at one point, when Vendrick is traveling through the shrine, he splits himself apart from his soul and places it behind a door only openable by a human. Maybe one day the chosen undead will pass through here, unable to be broken down by the undead curse. Hence, they will be human and able to open this door and obtain the king's soul.
I just happen to be
Maybe
human for
then
that.
they'll understand. From here, after splitting his soul, I imagine that Vendrick is carried by his trusted hand Velstart, who carries his husk of a body to rest in the undead crypt. Velstart, known as the Royal Aegis, gave himself to the king, both in life and death. Vendrick's armor is placed in a neat pile, with the king's ring ready to be taken by a worthy undead. Perhaps his gear is put aside by Velstart in the hopes that the chosen undead will take the ring and what he needs, but not harm the king he has been charged with protecting. The king is a soulless husk, and there is nothing to be gained from killing him. One day, this undead may link the fire. Vendrick knows that he will one day be overthrown by an undead worthy to link the flame, for it is written in fate, but he makes sure that Nashandra will not be the one to open it, as the barriers to her presence are great.
Oh my god.
The king's ultra greatsword depicts the queen. Only the king knows whether the depiction of the queen is an affectionate exaltation or a resentful mockery. I believe it's the latter, a mockery of the Queen as Vendrick succeeded in delaying her access to the throne, and resentful because he must abandon his kingdom to keep it safe. Nashandra waits. During all this, she guides the undead, knowing she can't hope to ascend the throne without you. If you go back to her at different points in the game, she'll tell you about the dragon in the shrine and the king in the crypt. She encourages you to descend upon the throne of want, and waits until you take out the throne watcher and the throne defender before finally presenting herself.
Oh my god.
Brave undead, you have proven yourself to me. Now, be one with the dog.
Nashandra, born of Manus, has one final chance to take out the chosen undead and ascend the throne. But the undead is strong enough to overthrow the Sinner, the Rotten, the Old Iron King, and the Duke's dear Freya. Strong enough to conquer the giant memories and uncover Vendrick in his crypt. So just like in Dark Souls 1, we're strong enough at the end because of the barriers in our way, many of which were put there by King Vendrick. And because of Vendrick, we easily conquer Nashandra as she tries to stop you from ascending the throne.
Crazy.
Hope you enjoyed these two videos, guys. These two took a long time to
I imagine
research
so.
and make, and even then, I'm nowhere near answering all the questions in this game. There's so much left to uncover, so many things that I left out of this video, just for simplicity's sake. I have a bunch of these questions listed in the description, and I'll probably make a video talking about them at some point. But if you wanted to try and answer some of them with your own theories in the comments down below that like button, then I think that would make for some great discussion. Anyway, click on the bonfire if you enjoy my content, and if you'd want to kindle the channel, and maybe I'll see you over on Patreon with the small community I have over there.
It's a
But
neat little
regardless of
art
that,
set.
I'll see you in the next video. Later, guys.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm confused with this one. Why does the Emerald Herald say we're breaking the shackles of fate when we're clearly adhering to it by lighting the fire all over again? Is she referring to breaking the shackles of the undead curse? It could be because Vendrick stopped the cycle in a way by sealing himself away, splitting his soul, making it fucking impossible. I don't know. Plot twist. Sandra was so easy because she was the one who passed through the fog and you were the boss. Technically, yeah, this was really well done. That really, oh my god, connected so many things. And I have to agree with one of you in the comments that the reason why you like Dark Souls 2 is because of how complex and deep the story in that game was. And you're right, it is much more deeper than Dark Souls 1. You know, Dark Souls 1 is just like the beginning of some bad decisions that caused this endless cycle. Whereas this game is a lot of layers and things happening, and someone trying to make a good kingdom, but then slowly realizes, you know, why it's fading, why things are happening, and is led astray by a daughter of Abyss, basically. And then he catches onto it, and then he's like, "Oh my god, I gotta figure out how to stop this from happening." And like literally everything in the game is technically both of them funneling us through to continue the cycle. You know, all the barriers which leads to us being so powerful, but then Nashandra guiding us through those barriers. Yeah, it makes so much more sense now that we've watched that. He's also got the DLC ending explained. Do we want to add another 20 minutes to this video? Wait, why is my recording at 12 minutes? Uh-oh. You guys, I'm an idiot. Somehow I hit stop recording. I think I still had OBS highlighted when I went to pause the video, and it actually stopped recording. I don't know how it started again, but we started pretty much at the end when I was like doing my take. So we're only gonna get to see the end of the video. It is fine. Like most of the video, I was just kind of sitting there staring, watching, trying to take it all in. So maybe that it's a good thing that this happened. So you don't have to sit here clicking through. You just get my take on it. How have I made it this far on YouTube? Well, I guess we can watch the DLC one.
Why did you come to Drang Lake? It wasn't to sit the throne, and you knew nothing about linking a fire. You didn't come here to become the next monarch, nor did you come here to unite the crowns of past kings. We came here because of what we lost. Memories long ago of things that were important to us. A woman, a child, a home. These represent a life that we no longer have. Once cursed, you lose everything. No one seems to know the origins of this curse, but no one seems to particularly care about it either. All they care about is a cure, and that's where Drangleic comes in, because Drangleic is a kingdom rumoured by many characters within it to have this cure. As we travel through Drangleic, we become so embroiled with the stories of the people we meet and the land we explore that most people actually forget why they're there. Did you forget? Because if you did, that's rather the point. You forget, just like your character did. All this talk of kings and queens and thrones and whatnot, it's enough to confuse anyone into forgetting. But I'm reminding you why you're here, because of what happens once you've completed the DLC and what happens once you've gathered the crown of every king. When you return to Vendrick, a short cinematic plays where he restores the power of the crowns. You might not have noticed this, but while wearing a crown from this point onwards, you're completely immune to the effects of the curse. Simply put, you'll no longer hollow upon death. Your body will not decay, your mind will not fade. From a purely selfish point of view, you have essentially found a way to deflect the undead curse. But there's a really important distinction you have to make here. Wearing the crowns isn't a cure for the curse, it's treatment. It helps you with the symptoms, but it's not a solution. A cure for the curse means to become truly human, to live out a lifespan and die. That's what it means to be human. You know why we haven't cured our curse yet? It's because our character keeps respawning when he dies. The developer kind of needs this gameplay mechanic, so don't expect to get cured anytime soon. To be undead is to be undying, and as you die over and over again, you forget what it is to be human. This process is called hollowing, and it continues until you become completely hollow. And just to be clear, that's hollow with a capital H, because once you become completely hollow, you can never attain your humanity again. Undead are called fateless by everything in the game because they're all destined to go hollow eventually. No other fate is allowed to them, but you're different.
Are you the next monarch, or merely a pawn of fate?
I believe all undead are pawns of fate because they're destined to hollow. The Herald makes this distinction between the next monarch and pawns of fate precisely because whoever is a true king does not hollow. Whoever unites the 4 crowns of lords long past will still be undead, but now they can cast off the shackles of fate and create a future that doesn't end in you turning into beef jerky. And you might be thinking, great, this is a blessing. I can live forever and not feel the effects of hollowing, but think about how this would play out in reality. Imagine being immune to the curse in a world filled with cursed people. In true Dark Souls fashion, you've been given a solution that involves watching everyone around you and everyone you love fade into insanity. You're the one sane person in a dying world. You alone have found the one thing that all cursed undead in Drangleic are craving. Think about Lucatiel, who ends her journey just a few short steps from her brother, a woman who fully expects to go hollow. Lucatiel is just one of many humans who came to Drangleic precisely because they heard there was a cure here. And they were right, though the rumors made it sound way better than it was. There is a way to avoid hollowing in Drangleic, and we've found it. But the tragedy is, it's not a cure, and it only helps one person. This highlights how little we know about the curse, the cycles of kingdoms, and the nature of light and dark. Before we found the crowns, our motivation was internal. We wanted to stop hollowing. We wanted to stop losing memories of loved ones or things we cared about, and that's why we came here. But now that we've found the crowns, don't you feel like all of a sudden our motivation is focused externally? We're forced to seek answers from the world itself. Why does the curse exist? Why is history repeating itself? Why are katanas still so overpowered? Now that we have the crowns, we finally have the power to fight the undead curse indefinitely. And in my opinion, anything in the series from this point onwards should revolve around that singular fact.
Find the crowns and your own answers.
There are 4 lords in Dark Souls 1 who found 4 great souls of power within the First Flame. Nito, Gwyn, the Witch of Izalith, and the Furtive Pygmy. Each of their souls are found within Dark Souls 2 as well. They're called the Souls of the Ineffable, too extreme to be described. Each of them says in their description that they continue to exert influence over the land, even though they're just remnants of once great souls. The key phrase is, exerts influence over the land. These souls don't just inhabit the bodies of certain beings, they do, but just like the Pale Drake soul infests the writhing ruin of sand and spiders, I believe that the other souls become a part of the land itself. What if, long ago, a chosen undead carved all the souls from these beings, and put them in a lord vessel created to hold souls? What if this lord vessel broke, and the souls no longer had a vessel to hold them? It's just speculation, but it could be true. The king unites his kingdom, and the crown is his symbol. I believe the crowns hold the strength of lords from Dark Souls 1, a power carried into the kingdoms these kings inhabit, and since the crown is a symbol of a kingdom, it could hold their power. The sunken crown would contain Nito's power. This king ruled far underground in a kingdom lost to toxicity. It lies behind the Rotten, who is an amalgamation of humanoid things, just like Nito is an amalgamation of skeletons. It has his characteristics. The Iron Crown would contain Gwyn's power. This Iron King, arrogant with his strength, built a kingdom of fire. We kill the Iron King himself, who holds a part of Gwyn's soul. And the Ivory Crown would contain the Witch's power. It's from a kingdom that fought and protected and possibly created a powerful flame of chaos. It's directly related to the lost sinner, who relit a flame of her own. And lastly, Vendrick ruled a kingdom of men, and he turned hollow himself. He and his kingdom seem directly related to the dark soul of humanity. By comparison, the previous kings are nowhere to be found, so maybe they weren't cursed, or maybe they weren't human, though I guess they could be. You could argue that all kingdoms had humans within them, but it is interesting to note that there are more references to the undead curse in Vendrick's kingdom, as well as his kingdom only containing human-sized humans, where the other ones contain taller, humanoid creatures. I don't know what to call them. It's always best to ignore size in Dark Souls lore. It seems to be an indication of power more than anything else in this universe. But bottom line is there are more links to humans in Vendrick's kingdom, which means he's more closely related to the Pygmy, which means he's more closely related to the Dark Soul and humanity. So the crowns could hold the strength of the 4 lords who held shards of the First Flame. Now, a lot of the assumptions I'm going to make do rely on this fact, but I do believe that what we've essentially done is inherit the power of the First Flame. There are a few other things to back this up. I mean, Nashandra was after the First Flame, after all.
If you proceed, Nashandra will come after you, knowing that you will take the throne and link the fire. She covets the First Flame and the Great Soul. Put Nashandra to rest.
She and her sisters were driven to collect all of the crowns. They went into each kingdom and drove their kings to ruin. If they had any united goal, any singular purpose that would drive them to go and conquer kingdoms, it would be to take these crowns, I think. This also explains the description on Vendrick's soul. The king was wasted away, a shadow of his former self, but he still held something dear. We originally thought that he was referring to the ring he has that unlocks his kingdom, but if it's dear to him, it could well have been his crown. He did lock it away as well. He wasn't just hiding the throne away from Nashandra. The crown is really important too. It holds a faint heat within it, and the heat could be a clue to it being a fragment of the power of the First Flame. I'd say we need Vendrick's blessing to realize this power, because Vendrick is essentially passing his monarchy over to us. Long ago, he conquered the 4 Great Ones and built a kingdom upon their souls, uniting the First Flame. So now it's time for us to ascend to his rule. Nashandra was forced to wait for Vendrick to pass away as he hid from her. When we kill Vendrick, she tells us,
Drang Lake is no longer.
But by going into Vendrick's memory, by going back in time and taking the monarchy from him, we can alter the timeline. He can pass this monarchy to us.
Inherit fire and harness the dark. Such is the calling of a true leader.
We are inheriting the fire. The crowns are that fire. Together, they could well be a representation of the Great Soul, or the First Flame. Once we've inherited this fire, we no longer hollow, so we can harness the dark, the power to never die. So we have all this, though. What now? What's our purpose now?
Seek strength. The rest will follow.
There is still more we have to do. It's not over yet. To succeed, we must throw off the dark. But is such a thing even possible?
Shadow is not cast, but born of fire. And the brighter the flame, the deeper the shadow.
All this makes me think that Vendrick may once have been in our position. He might have been unable to die, searching for a cure. It seems like he found answers, but it's definitely true that they weren't the ones he was hoping for.
With fire, they say, a true king can harness the curse. A lie, but I knew no better. One day fire will fade, and dark will become a curse.
The opening cutscene of Dark Souls also says,
"But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain."
all this information doesn't bode well for us. Eternal darkness seems to be that one conclusion most characters with more knowledge than us come to. That's not good.
Men will be free from death, left to wander eternally.
To wander eternally and to be free from death. That is essentially to be hollow. In fact, some argue that this is the original state of all humanoid beings. Before the first flame, what you see on screen, that seems to be what all humanoid creatures were created from. And I'd go as far as to say as they are hollows, they're empty vessels, and when they found souls within the first flame, they became different things, they became unique beings. So some of these beings found 4 powerful souls in the first flame, and they took these souls for themselves. So there was Gwyn, there was the witch, there was Nito, but the most important one to us was the furtive pygmy. He or she was the holder of the dark soul. That creature gave humanity fragments to the hollows and created humans. He broke his soul, which we know people can do. He broke his soul into little bits and he gave everyone a shard of humanity. Essentially, he created humanity. For Vendrick to say that men will be free from death is to say that they will lose their humanity. He's saying we will no longer die. We will revert to this hollow state and we will wander eternally, just like you see in this cutscene.
Dark will again be ours, and in our true shape, we can bury the false legends of yore. Only...
He's saying that we can only escape the cycle by embracing darkness, instead of continually relighting the first flame, and continually starting that cycle over again.
Only... is this our only choice?
Eventually, Nashandra or some other element of dark might win and bring the kingdom to darkness.
Seek strength. The rest will follow.
A king sees what he chooses to see, and just like in Dark Souls 1, do we embrace dark and allow the queens to win, or do we fight it to relight the first flame? The fire can give comfort, but it can burn like the flame of chaos did. Just so, dark can represent hatred and lust for power, but there are examples of tranquility and forgiveness within it. So, are you fighting against a side, or are you fighting to show that humanity can be the best of both? So that pretty much does it for my speculation. I really want to end on this one final note. Something doesn't feel right with the way the DLC was ended. Now granted, it's not like From to do a huge, dramatic ending that explains everything, but even so, it makes little sense from a gameplay perspective. Why give players power over hollowing if you're not giving them anything else to fight? From Software often makes their point through gameplay, and from a gameplay perspective, this ending was lacking. We were all hoping for that huge fight with Manus, or the discovery that Shanalot was our queen. Some twist, you know? Speaking of which, I want to talk about Shanalot. So put your conspiracy hats on, because Alsana, Alana, Nashandra, Nadalia, all these queens have the na sound in their name, including Shanalot. I'm not saying she's our queen, guys, but she's totally our queen. The connections just keep happening. When you also consider that Alsana says,
"My sisters are as a thick dark, their lust for souls insatiable."
This kind of makes you think, oh shit, I've been giving the Emerald Herald my souls for the whole game. Anyway, that's enough Emerald Herald speculation. I love doing it. So take off your Shanalot conspiracy hats and put back on your DLC speculation hats for a second, because I'm not done talking about the potential of there being more DLC. There's still a fair bit left in the game files we haven't seen, and From Software intentionally calls the Ivory King DLC the final chapter of the Crown's trilogy. They don't call it the end of Dark Souls 2. If I was to guess, I'd say that there's more DLC coming, although I'm not 100% sure, obviously. Collecting all 3 crowns wasn't a conclusion from a lore point of view, and even from a gameplay point of view, it wasn't conclusive either. If there was nothing left to fight, why would they give us the power to resist hollowing, you know? And also, if Dark Souls 2 ends here, what kind of stage does this set for Dark Souls 3, considering our main character in Dark Souls 2 has inherited the power to exist throughout timelines? That would be a really weird premise to start Dark Souls 3 on, although it could still be done. You know, your character could become the big bad boss, or your character could become a legend or something like that. But yeah, even Vendrick's last piece of dialogue seems to be a clue.
The rest will follow.
It might not happen, guys, but I got a feeling. The DLC was damn good for the price as well, and if the team hasn't moved on to Bloodborne, then I really do expect more out of them. The biggest question I have, if there was more DLC, is how is their timing going to work? Considering that there's a release of Bloodborne coming in February. That's the most confusing thing to me. It's not going to be easy to balance these 2 series and make sure one doesn't eclipse the other, you know?
It's so weird to hear this.
Video, you should check out my Patreon page. I have a small community over there that I'm...
Okay, there is another video, The First Sin, but that rattled my brain a little bit. And it was interesting to hear him say that it's not done. Because it is true, you've been given this power to just go on infinitely, but you don't really get to use it, because then you just go ahead and light the fire anyway. But at least in the DLC, you have the choice, you can just walk away. But what does that mean, also? Because the linking of fire is just going to happen anyway. It'll just always happen. So yeah, let's watch the First Sin one and see if that has any weight.
As flame rises, so does it fade. Such is the way of things.
Light and dark. Neither can fade while the other survives. This is the law of the Dark Souls universe, and all the characters within are bound by its principles. But it was not always this way. Once, long ago, the world was grey, without heat, cold, life, death, light or dark. But then the first flame appeared.
After the advent of fire,
That's what I want to know, is how did the first flame just come into being? What is that ever explained, how the first flame was the first flame? Why?
ancient lords found the 3 souls, but your progenitor found a 4th, unique soul, the Dark Soul. Your ancestor claimed the Dark Soul and waited for fire to subside, and soon the flames did fade, and only dark remained. Thus began the Age of Men, the Age of Dark.
This was the natural progression that was supposed to take place in the world. It was supposed to be the Age of Ancients, and then the Age of Fire, then the Dark Age of Man.
However, Lord Gwyn trembled at the dark, clinging to his Age of Fire and in dire fear of humans and the Dark Lord who would one day be born amongst them. Lord Gwyn resisted the course of nature by sacrificing himself to link the fire and commanding his children to shepherd the humans. Gwyn has blurred your past to prevent the birth of the Dark Lord.
What Gwyn did could be called the first sin, for he resisted the course of nature. He forced the darkness back, and from this moment forth the light and the dark have been in a constant ebb and flow, like the rising and the falling of the tide. In the ending of Dark Souls 1, we are a part of this flow. The world is in the grip of darkness, filled with broken, tired characters. We tear through the remains of their fragile world and are guided to the kiln of the first flame. Here we have a choice. We can do the same thing Gwyn did and bolster the power of the flame with our own soul, or we can turn our back on the dying light and let darkness grip the world. Before Dark Souls 2, we thought that these endings were polar opposites, but we were wrong. The choice itself is irrelevant, and whether you linked the flame or whether you turned your back on it, your choice would have led to the events of Dark Souls 2. It would have led to the kingdom of Drangleic, where our character exists. Drangleic was once a proud kingdom of light, but it has fallen into darkness and decay like the countless kingdoms before it.
No flame, however brilliant, does not one day splutter and fade. But then, from the ashes, the flame reignites, and a new kingdom is born, sporting a new face. It is all a curse. And it is your cursed flesh that will inherit the flame.
In the ending of Dark Souls 2, we once again arrive at the kiln to either link the fire or let the world fade into darkness.
Once the fire is linked, souls will flourish anew, and all of this will play out again. It is your choice to embrace or renounce this.
The Emerald Herald pushes us to link the fire, for she wishes to be free of the curse. It reminds me of Anastasia from Dark Souls 1, a firekeeper who also wished for us to link the fire.
Framt has told me of you, that you have agreed to link the fire. I thank you sincerely. Finally, the curse of the undead will be lifted, and I can die human.
To link the fire is to become free of the curse of the undead, and if linking the fire frees us of the curse, then it does follow that the initial linking of the fire, the thing that started all of this, is related to the curse. Aldia says as much, after all.
Once the Lord of Light banished dark and all that stemmed from humanity. And then assumed a fleeting form. These are the roots of our world.
What Aldia is saying is that when Gwyn linked the fire and banished dark, man became much less. He says that man assumed a fleeting form. Fleeting means temporary, so I take this to mean that Gwyn reduced mankind's existence in some way. But what exactly? Did he make them mortal? Did he place the undead curse upon them, causing them to return to their hollow state? And as far as I know, there's nothing in the game that explicitly explains what Gwyn's linking of the flame did to man. My current theory is that Gwyn actually linked the fire to humanity, which would explain a lot. By doing this, he could feed the flame with humanity's souls, plus it would explain why we respawn at the bonfire, why we kindle the bonfire, and why we're drawn to it even though our nature is inherently dark. Agdane says,
in the past, humans were one with the dark.
And we are one with it no longer.
Men are props in states of life, and no matter how tender, how explicit, a lie will remain a lie.
Men became something to be used. You can hear the fury in his voice when he says this, because Aldia realizes that men were supposed to inherit the world, but they can't, because the world seems stuck in a cycle of light and dark. Men had everything taken from them, but this defines them. They are fateless, but they still want for more, and so they loved, they lost, and they achieved, all within the bounds of their desire.
Peace grants men the illusion of life.
While the flame is at its height and the world is peaceful, mankind seems able to die. We know this because the curse of undeath is always listed as something that appears rather than something that has always existed. Usually this happens sometime after the fire has been linked, perhaps as soon as it begins to fade. For example, Gwyn was undone long after he linked the fire, and similarly, Vendrick started to fear the curse after his reign had begun. He began to fear men who would not die, men who were cursed to return to their hollow state.
Shackled by falsehoods, they yearn for love, unaware of its grand illusion. Until the curse touches their flesh. We are bound by this yoke, as true as the dark that churns within men.
This is the fate that the Emerald Herald, Vendrick, and Anastasia want to avoid by linking the fire. They want to be free from the curse of the undead so that they can become human and die. Better to die than to become a soulless husk like you see in the trailer. So in the original ending of Dark Souls 2, you could choose to link the fire, or you could choose to let it fade. Both are irrelevant, because the world of Dark Souls 2 is defined by the countless civilizations that have risen and fallen. This one ending, where you ascend the throne, and the Emerald Herald tells you you can link the fire, or walk away from it, is the same as the two endings of Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
Because whether you link the fire, or extend the Age of Dark, you become part of the cycle. So Dark Souls 2 gives you no in-game choice to be made, because in this game, you are supposed to have learned that there is no significant choice to be made. If you link the fire, the cycle renews, and if you choose not to, eventually an undead will rise who can unseat you and link the fire. That's who your character in Dark Souls 2 is, after all. Vendrick was the Lord of Light before you, but after spending countless years researching the curse, he realized that it was all futile. His soul's description says that he is the one who should have linked the fire, but he became overwhelmed by despair and seems to have accepted the darkness instead.
One day fire will fade, and dark will become a curse. Men will be free from death, left to wander eternally. Dark will again be ours, and in our true shape, we can bury the false legends of yore.
Vendrick is inclined to believe that there are two choices, to link the fire or let it fade. He believes that by accepting the darkness, the world will eventually pass into an age of man built around their dark souls.
Only, is this our only choice?
And while it is true that we have never seen exactly what happens once the flame fades entirely, Aldia is a character who believes that it never will.
Young Aldo, there are but two paths. Inherit the order of this world, or destroy it. But only a true monarch can make such a choice.
To link the fire or to let it fade. These aren't two choices, they're one. This is what Aldia calls inheriting the order of the world. It's the order Gwyn began long ago when he linked the flame, forcing the darkness and the light into a constant ebb and flow, a cycle that would repeat itself throughout the centuries. But Aldia tells us of a second choice, not to inherit the order of the world, but to destroy the cycle entirely. And this is exactly the ending Dark Souls 2 needed, for we are the one undead in history who is able to ignore the hollowing effects of the curse. And in my previous video on this topic, I told you about the effects of gathering the 3 crowns from the DLC. When you have the 3 crowns, it doesn't cure the undead curse, it stops you from hollowing. And once you have united the crowns of lords long past, you have the ability to ignore your fate. You can now exist outside of the cycle, for while every other undead is immortal, you are the only one who will never be broken by the curse, and you are the one who will never hollow.
Many monarchs have come and gone. One drowned in poison, another succumbed to flame. Still another slumbers in the realm of ice. Not one of them stood here. As you do. Now. You, conqueror of adversities. Give us your answer.
Throughout the entire game, we've been told that we do what we do without really knowing why. But that is exactly what it means to be man. It's exactly what is required of you in the end. For there is no path, and we are the one undead who can forge forward, forging a new path and bringing us into a new age. Not an age of ancients which passed naturally, not an age of fire which Gwyn failed to implement, nor an age of dark which Nishandra perished by. We are the true monarch, who cannot perish, who cannot hollow, and we seek to break free of the cycle, to march forward bravely into an uncertain future.
So I did the right one. Hey? What I don't understand is how Algae's voice continues here. We killed him. But he remains with us?
There is no path. Beyond the scope of light, beyond the reach of dark. What could possibly await us? And yet we seek it insatiably. Such is our fate.
What a way to end a video. Each one of those videos kind of solved some questions, created some more, and now I'm just like questioning it all. Like, how does it all end? Like, how did it all start? Why did the first flame happen? And like, it's so confusing. Like, I wonder if they have like this Bible From Software that has like the true meaning and the lore that is all just and so. And I'm wondering what Dark Souls 3 is. Is it just the cycle continuing and we're just another undead looking to lick the fire? It's interesting that they have more games because in all of them we have the decision to not link it. So I guess like there's always going to be another undead to champion it, but we have all the we have the inheritance of light, of the first fire, and we leave at the end. We don't link it. So how does another cycle happen if we go away? Does someone just eventually come and take it from us and then links it? I'm interested to see what Dark Souls 3 is going to be all about, because I feel like it's just going to be the same thing. It's all just so vague and hard to grasp. Wonder if you had more questions in this description. No, nothing in this one. I'll admit, when he came out of the ground, it scared the shit out of me. Yeah, it scared me too. No matter how badass I make my character, they are destined to be overthrown by an even more badass character. Dark Souls 1, the struggle between light and dark. Dark Souls 2, the fight between order and chaos. Bloodborne, aliens impregnating humans and making squid babies. Yes. Yeah, I don't think Dark Souls 2 lore is weak. I think it's like by factors more deep than Dark Souls 1. Like Dark Souls 1 is just kind of the first cycle and how it all started. Dark Souls 2 is like a fractured, broken, ages-long thing where a notable time in history happened that is because of what happened in the beginning. And it has a lot more going on with it. It really is interesting. It's hard to kind of take it all in, but yeah, like in a sense we were destined to go hollow all along because we kind of just came from that. And for whatever reason, the Dark Soul and the First Flame became a thing that had souls in them. I don't know. It's a really perplexing thing. And I really do wonder how Dark Souls 3 ties into it and how it ends it, because I don't think there's a Dark Souls 4 happening. Like, it's a trilogy, right? So Dark Souls 3 is supposed to be the end of it. Is it just going to be an ambiguous ending like all of these are, where it's like, oh, you did your part and it just continues? I'm not sure. Again, I apologize for the main lore video being completely cut off in my incompetence. But I didn't want to record it again because what reason is there for me to do that? It would just not be a true reaction anymore at that point. Not like I was really reacting at all anyway. I was just gonna sit there watching it. He does a really good job with all these videos, man. It's a lot of information and vague facts to tie together to make something cohesive. Even in the cohesive nature of his videos, it's still like, it doesn't really make sense. So I wonder if there really is like a Bible they have where it has like the written word on why everything happens. And it sounded like, you know, humanity is fleeting, like it always should be, and hollows are forever. But I can understand why people would want to seek humanity to die, so they're not trapped in the eternal, mindless hollowness. It is all very sad. It all is very dark. I agree with Vaati though. It's interesting they made the whole crown thing where you are like essentially outside of fate at that point, and you can live eternally free from the curse to watch the ages rise and fade. But I still understand, because when you have all those crowns and you have the ability to repel the curse, you are the founding flame, right? You are the monarch, the true soul that can link the fire. So I don't understand how cycles can go anew with you existing. I don't know. There's so many questions and I don't fully understand it. Like, I understand the story now of Dark Souls 2 on why things are happening, how it happened and why it happened, but like still the origin and how it's supposed to end is just a mystery to me. And maybe it's supposed to be, but I'll end it there. I'll just continuously ramble on, and there will be no end in sight. Just like the Dark Souls lore, it seems to just go on forever without end. But yeah, another interesting video. I know I didn't do the lore video for the first one. I did record it, but I completely screwed up. Like I did in this one, I screwed up both of them. But the first one I truly screwed up. It wasn't working, and I decided not to post it. Let's see if I can decide to post this one. If I did, thank you for watching. If you have any insight yourself, please do comment it below if I kind of didn't grasp a point that was made. I'm not gonna put myself beyond the capability of doing that. I'm definitely capable of missing a point, like a plane going over my head. I agree though. A lie will always remain a lie. Yeah, I think my lasting thought would be that Dark Souls 2 should be the true ending of the trilogy. I have to play Dark Souls 3 again, but like with the crowns, we just were eternal at that point, and the flame would never be relinked as long as we had it. So I really got to see what Dark Souls 3 is about before I can finalize my thoughts on this franchise. But it is feeling like Dark Souls 2 should have been the end, and Dark Souls 3 is happening in the past. We'll see. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. I just said I was gonna stop, and then it continued. So here we go, we're stopping. Thank you very much for watching. I'm gonna go watch the Try Not to Cry now. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.